All right, everyone. Want to welcome you to our Wednesday afternoon sales session. This week we are going to go over a product. We have one of the head people over at Delaware Life, a company that's been around a long, long time, go over the product for us. It's called the RS7. Now, I have gone over with a few of you the highlights of the product. I think it could be a fantastic alternative to both cash as well as CDs. So what I'd like, I asked Jay to come on board and give us a little rundown on the product itself, answer any questions that we might have, and we go from there. So without further ado, Jay, I will hand it off to you.
Great, thank you very much. I am going to share the screen here as long as I do this correctly. Thanks, Jim, for that. I appreciate the intro. What we're going to cover today is just a light touching on Delaware Life, and then go right into retirement stages 7. So as an organization, we are focused primarily on clarity, integrity, and efficiency. You're going to see that in our simplistic product design of the RS7, which also that chassis translates to a number of our other products as well. We build simple, straightforward design, so it's easy for clients to understand, which in turn will make things extremely easy for advisors to understand, sell, and service our contracts going forward. So we really try and build things without curveballs, gotchas, anything like that to make life easy. We are the old Sun Life, and we're fine with people referring to us as the old Sun Life as well, because Sun Life was in the annuity and life insurance space for a number of decades. A lot of the people I work with over here are from the Sun Life days, and there's a wealth of knowledge that transitioned over. We became Delaware Life in August of 2013, and now we are a privately held, solely US-based organization, where Sun Life is a Canadian-based organization. When that happened, we brought over $36 billion worth of business on the books, and to date we've sold about $14.5 billion worth of retirement stages 7 and a couple of our other products. We're an A- through AM Best with a BBB+, and we've held these ratings for about 5 or 6 years. Hopefully someday we'll get bumped up to an A, as we've been executing on all our business models and everything from the rating agencies that have asked for, but sometimes these things take time. So all good news here from an organizational standpoint. We're big, we're strong, we're relevant within the industry. And I just did want to share that with you, because sometimes people will say, Delaware Life, who is that? Oh, the old Sun Life. We understand who that is now. You will not see too much Delaware Life advertising and marketing in like the newspaper or on the television. We usually use pretty much referrals and word of mouth from our agents, and use our marketing organization partners like DMI to help share the name and share the good story that we have out there. So I just wanted to touch on that first. Retirement stages 7. This is the creme de la creme of the 7-year products. This is our #1 selling index product, and you'll see why very quickly. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It is a 7-year surrender period, and that is a non-rolling surrender period. So first things first, this is a flexible premium annuity with a non-rolling surrender. What I mean by that is, if you were to open a contract on today, April 28th, 2021, no matter when additional payments came in on the contract, this contract would be fully free on April 28th, 2008. 2028. I always had to do the quick math. So, which clients, it makes it very client friendly, makes it very advisor friendly. When this thing's said and done, it doesn't mean they have to cash it out by any means. A client could hold this for 20, 25 years, no issue whatsoever, but they can make additional premium payments or additional rollovers or whatever they like down the road in years 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, whatever the client prefers. So it is a flexible premium product with a non-rolling surrender charge. Built into the product, which I'll show you in a little bit, is what we call an enhanced minimum surrender value. And really what that means is that this product has two silos of money. It has your account value, which is what's invested in the index, and then a separate side surrender value, or almost an invisible value to a certain degree, that you would only receive if it was surrendered. And that surrender value grows 1% compounding each year, even if the indexes return nothing. So you get a 1% return compounding growth over the life of the contract for however long they hold it. So worst case scenario, that's the amount they would receive. Even if the indexes were flat or down for 7 years in a row, and then the client opted to cash out the contract, they would still have a positive return at 1%. That is seen on the first page of our illustrations. If you decide to illustrate the product, we show you the minimum value. So we do get a lot of questions about that, but it does show up there, and I can show you as well on the side. And that is built into the contract, no charge whatsoever. Another feature that's built into the contract is a bailout endorsement, and we base that off the S&P cap. I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides and give you a visual with that, but that is a guarantee, a promise from Delaware Life that, you know, we're going to keep our renewals competitive. And this product itself has been out for almost 6 years. It came out in September of 2015, so we're coming up on our 6-year anniversary, and we still get compliments. We have built a lot of trust in our advisor base because the renewals that they've received throughout the life of their contracts that they've sold have been very, very similar to the new money rates, if not the same in most circumstances. So we priced this product out for 7 years, where some of our competitors might price out for 3 or 4, and then the last couple they've seemed to fall off. That is built into the contract at no charge whatsoever. So you get the enhanced minimum surrender value and the bailout endorsement infused into each contract with no charge. The only thing that you can add to this is an optional return of premium rider. It's a 40 basis points charge, and that rider is on the contract for the 7 years of the CDSC window. And really what that is very simply exactly what it says, return of premium. Worst case scenario, if the client gave us $100,000 and let's say the indexes didn't do anything for 2 or 3 years, they could leave the contract at any point, in worst case scenario, get the $100,000 back. In most circumstances where indexes perform and indexes perform and the account value goes up and your CDSC window goes down, very quickly you get to a point where the actual account value minus any surrender charges would exceed the initial premium paid in. So we won't limit you to just that. If the value of the contract minus any CDSC charges is higher than, let's say, that $100,000 example, then we're going to pay you that. So it's something you can add on to the contract. You have to do it at inception. The charge is on for the 7 years, so the charge will not come off. And it's a 40 basis point charge, and we charge it on the anniversary date. It's based off of the account value. So that's the only rider that can be added to this. So you can see very clearly this is accumulation focused, low to no fee contract. You can easily buy this in the majority of the contracts, probably 90% of them out there that we currently have 0 fees whatsoever. There's multiple commission options for yourself, the agent. And on top of that, there's a diverse set of index crediting strategies that we offer. We offer US-based First Trust Capital, a global-based Morgan Stanley with a vol control index, which is done quite well over the years we've had it, a series of S&P options and a fixed bucket. And I will show you those in a second. The next slide here is a little bit of the eye chart, but this is really the standard chassis for pretty much all of our products in a lot of ways. So this translates to, you know, the 10-year version of this product, as well as alongside of our income product as well. So the availability of this is from age 18 to 80. We only accept non-qualified, traditional IRA, SEP IRA, and Roth IRA lines of business. The minimum on this is $10,000. So we do see a lot of clients right now sending in the 10,000 or 11,000 and having us code the tax year, for on half of that for 2020 and the other half for 2021. So we see that right around this, April this year, May 17th deadline. We do say, you can write up to $1 million without any prior approval. But if you do want to go over $1 million, please reach out to Jim or myself, and we're always approving those. So it's not something that will be denied. It does say max of $1 million, but we go well over that many, many times. The free amounts that you will have access to is you have your RMDs, so we'll never penalize a client for needing to take an RMD in their first contract year. And then after the first contract year, they'll have access to 10% of the anniversary of value without any charges. Of course, anything that goes over that will be subject to a CDSC on that portion that's over the 10%, but that's pretty industry standard. Enhanced and return of premium we touched on. Built into this contract as well, we do have a nursing home waiver and a terminal illness waiver as well. And once again, no charge. Those are state specific. So for example, most states allow it, but for some reason, California does not. I don't know why. But if the client were to go into a nursing home for 60 days, a qualified licensed nursing home, they can let us know. And all we do is pretty much remove, uncheck a box in our system, and the client can have access to the money fully or partially without surrender charge or MVA. Same thing applies to terminal illness. If they're diagnosed with a terminal illness from a qualified physician or doctor, let us know. We remove all restrictions on the contract. So, we're not looking to tie people's money down when they're in a, more dire situation where these apply. So it's a company principle and, a humane thing to do in a lot of ways. So that's kind of the chassis that you'll see not only on retirement stages 7, but our target growth 10 and a couple of our other products as well. So we kind of universalize the chassis. And then there's a couple different nuances that are, different between products. Like this is a 7-year target growth, might be like a 10-year, and the rates would vary, of course. But once you have this basic understanding, you pretty much know all about Delaware Life's index and annuity products going forward. So nice and easy. The rates currently for this product are First Trust is at an 85% participation rate. Morgan Stanley is at 75%. One thing that we just raised that we're getting a lot of attention on is our S&P cap is a 5% cap right now. I mean, the S&P is obviously the one that is universal throughout all the products at Delaware Life and within the industry. And so we have a highly competitive cap there. Also a competitive participation rate in the current rate market at 28% and a performance trigger at 4.35. And we do get a lot of questions on the performance trigger. It's really just a fancy way of saying that you're betting that the S&P is going to be positive for the year. So if you allocate any money into the S&P performance trigger and the S&P is up 2%, 0.35%. If the S&P is up 8% for the year, your client gets 4.35%. So really that S&P option is just a statement that you believe that it is going to be positive for the year. And when it is, then the amount allocated in that is going to get a 4.35% return. Our fixed rate, which I think is also highly competitive for 1 year point to point right now, and is also a strong sales positioning piece for yourself, is at 2.25%. Why I believe that's reasonably strong is that if you look at current fixed rates, CDs, of course, other MIGA products, other annuity products, they're most likely 3-5 year in that 2.5 range, maybe a little bit higher for going a little longer. Well, it's a good way to pivot a client away from something that might actually be too conservative for them and show them a product that maybe they could put 50% of their money to start in the 1 year fixed bucket at 2.25, and that you could quote unquote play or be a little bit more aggressive in the Morgan Stanley or First Trust or even the S&P cap with the other 50%. So it gives you an option of showing someone, well, if you were going to get a guaranteed 2.75 over 5 years, that's great. But what if we were in a 7-year product? I could guarantee you 2.25 on half of your money, and then the average return on Morgan Stanley is like 6%. Would you be willing to do something like that and take on a little bit more uncertainty per se for potentially a higher average rate of return than 2.75, something more in the 4 or 5% range? So that's why we continue to keep a aggressive or reasonably strong 1-year fixed rate. The other thing I'll point out to you here as well is you'll notice that all these indexes are 1-year terms. We believe in the power of an annual reset, which allows these clients not only to move the money and reallocate it accordingly each contract anniversary, but also get updated account values and diversify amongst them however they like. So, we will continue to keep these in 1-year point to points. We will continue to keep these renewals strong as the rate market allows us to do so. So, highly competitive product in the industry. The bailout, which I said I'd touch on lightly here, is just an example of, I'll go back up to this slide here, excuse me. Right now, the cap on the S&P is 5%. So our bailout is contractually locked into each one at 3%, which means that we will, if we were to ever offer your clients upon a renewal a 3% or lower cap, excuse me, let me rephrase that, a renewal that's under 3%. If it's 3% or above, this would not trigger, but if it's under 3%, then your client would have 90 days to remove the money without any charges. And they do not need to actually be invested in this index for that trigger to flip. So they would just have to get a renewal from us at like 2.9 or 2.95, and then the client would be able to fully liquidate or partially remove whatever portion they want of the contract without any charges from us. So that's why we set it there. It's always 2% below the cap, and it's a promise from us to you, another free one in a lot of ways, that we'll continue to offer competitive renewals as the contract ages. So that is Retirement Stages 7 in summary. We have a 10-year version, Target Growth, as well, which you get into higher requirements to get into and more banded money and some higher rates, but it's pretty much built off of the same chassis as that. So that is the product in summary. Jim, did you have anything you wanted to ask or open up?
Yeah, I wanted to just point out a few things and ask you a quick question. To me, I really like the product, and my goal is always to bring to you guys products that you can use immediately, that are hopefully easy to understand, and so you can explain how they work to your client. A couple things I really like about the product is first off, that the funds themselves, like you have right there, they actually have a track record. A lot of the fixed index annuities out there, they have, they show performance over the last 10 years of 9.7%. And then you see that the index was started 4 months ago. So, in some situations, the index itself is a great story and it's a great play. A lot of times that they're just doing cherry picking and picking the best of the stocks for that index. And they're just saying, hey, if you were in this product 10 years ago, you'd get 9.7% return. However, it's only been around for 4 months. So that's one of the nice things I like about this. Yeah. For me, if I was using this with clients, like I said earlier, I would be using it as a cash alternative or a CD alternative. So I would always add on that return of premium for the 40 basis points on there, because again, the liquidity factor of it, it's usually just peace of mind for the client. They rarely ever take advantage of it. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about, Jay, if you can just go over so that we had the 1% minimum on 100% of the money. That question actually came up a few days ago. They were wondering if it was a 1% on like 85% of the money or all of it. And I said, I believe it's all of it, but we'll find out. But the question I have for you is in regards to the return of premium. So let's say, for example, the client puts in $100,000, and let's say 2 years down the road, it grows to $115,000. Now, if the client wanted to, say, bust out of there, take the whole thing out, they get the $100,000. Is that correct?
Well, it's going to depend actually on the rate of return. So the index is excuse me, the contracts in the States are usually the highest CDSC charge that we're going to see on this is 8.5%. So if they got 15% return in the first year, and the math works out that after CDSC charges they're at 107, we're going to give you the 107. We're always going to do what's in best interest for the client. If it's the flip side, let's say they got a 3% return, it was at 103, and the CDSC charge is 8.5. With that return of premium rider, they're protected from going under that 100,000. So in that circumstance, if they wanted to leave after the first year, they'd get their $100,000 back.
Yep. Excellent.
Not minus fees. So even if the fee that we would normally have charged was, easy numbers, $400 in that year, they're going to get the 100,000. They're not going to get 96,600. So you have your choice. Starting in the second year, you can take out 10% free withdrawal. But if you decide to blow out of the whole thing, worst case scenario, you're getting the original principal, obviously minus any withdrawals you have, or whatever the surrender charge value would be, whichever is higher. Correct. Yeah. Whatever's best for the client.
Gotcha.
In that circumstance. Yeah.
Yep. And again, I think that's an important part. Yeah. To make sure that everyone understands. So we got a couple more minutes left over. We may have some questions. We may not. If you do, feel free to put them in either the chat or the Q&A, whichever you would like, and we can ask Jay here. It could be that Jay did such a fantastic job and people are ready to just go out and run with this. So, I mean, I would say to everyone, what in my opinion, what you should do is go out into your book of business and see what clients maybe have a larger exposure than they should have to either cash. And then also I would send out an email to all your clients and say, hey, do you have a CD coming due? I have an alternative to, say, 0.1% that you get on your savings account, where you can maybe make a lot more, but you still have the liquidity factor. You still have the return of premium in there. Again, this is stuff that we can do. You can do basically ASAP. All right, there was a question here, and the question is there any minimum guarantee interest, like 1%, or is it just 0%? I think, didn't we cover that the minimum guarantee that is in here is that the client will make 1% regardless of what happens? Is that correct, Jay?
It is, and it isn't. And I'll show you visually. That's why I brought it up, because it's easier for me to see how I kind of reference. There's two silos of money. So this is your worst case scenario, where the index values return nothing year after year after year. And I just did a $50,000 illustration.
Yep.
And what's interesting is your account value will stay at 50. So if your question is there a guaranteed 1% on the account value? No, there isn't. The surrender value is the separate silo of money that I was speaking about before. That gets 1% on 100% each year. So right here, this would be 50,000 minus MVA plus the 1%. Is we do everything at the end of the contract year. So this is at 12:01 in the morning after the first year completed. Now, I'm glad you asked that question, because what's very interesting as well is we talk about this product as a 7-year CDSC window. But if you look at these surrender charges, and this is without the ROP as well, so something you should consider offering, but without ROP on it, at around the end of year 5, you've broken even still, and with 0 returns. So even though it might be a 7-year contract, in your worst case scenario situation, at around the end of 5 years, you should probably be equal with the declining CDSC charges, so 87654, and then the 1% compounding over that time is pretty powerful. And the other thing too, I mean, you can't base everything off this, but 35 years out, this at the 1%, that's 50,000, is 70,000. So you would only get this value if you surrendered the contract, but this is a real dollar amount. So, you know, we get into an economy or a situation like this, your clients are still going to be able to make a little bit of money.
Yep.
Now, with that being said, I did want to show you Morgan Stanley real quick here. At 7 years, Morgan Stanley at the end of, you know, month-to-month returns, in the 7 years, is looking like 76. So you're looking at some pretty strong. That's about a 50% return on investment over the 7-year window. Once again, illustrative.
Yep.
This all goes back in time. But like Jim said, the indexes we use, Morgan's been out since 2015. We used to use one that went out to 2005. You're using one or basing your numbers off something that's 4 or 5 months or even under a year old, then you're starting to look at, like having the answers before the test in some ways. So
no, absolutely.
Very good point for you to bring up, Jim, because it's something we've bumped into recently in the industry.
Absolutely. That's one of my pet peeves, is when you have a carrier that says, well, this is done, you know, 10% over the last 12 years, but the index itself has only been around for like 8 or 9 months. You know, that's just me. But
and the other thing you have to look at those too is dive into them a little further and look at actually what the vol control and what your access to equities are. I mean, these swing higher in equities, but we've looked at a number of them, and you find out the vol controls in the upper 3s or like low 4%, and your exposure to equity is very, very small. So as these interest rates come back up, you could be in a negative situation real quickly in some of these. So that's why we've picked and worked with the organizations like First Trust and Morgan Stanley, and, you know, put our faith in them and help design these. So.
Gotcha. So we did have one more question. So the question is, so is this then actual performance? So this is the Morgan Stanley. So can you just go in? It looks like the Morgan Stanley has what, a 5-year track record, somewhere around there?
Yes. So this would be, we do it in 15, like everyone else, we do it in 15-year intervals. So you're going to see it repeat. So 3.86 here, year 16, 3.86. And then we're going to also show you my favorite one here, your best 10-year window, your worst 10-year, and what your average is. So your best 10 years about 6.18, your worst 3.78. Not too bad, 3.78. And the most recent 10-year 3.78. Now it's due to a lot of the volatility that we saw in 2018, 2020. But overall, you know, we're showing you a couple of years with zeros in here. We're showing years with 2.97, 5.07, and these aren't based off of the full participation rate. Okay, these are based off of what we're showing you currently. So when I show you a 75% participation rate, these numbers coincide with that return. These are at 75%. So when Morgan Stanley, when things level out and you see our Morgan Stanley back at 90, 100, I think First Trust is at 85 right now for another index. We're pretty aggressive with these proprietary ones here because frankly, at the end of the day, they're all designed to track and beat the S&P. And that's what we want to do. So great question.
Yeah, so we got one more quick one. And since we are starting to get low on time, Jay, I'm looking for a yes or no answer for this.
Okay.
Here's the question. If on the performance trigger index, if the S&P return for the year is positive 0.50, then the client would then get the 4.35 credited, correct?
Yes.
There you go. Very nice.
0.000001. Yes. It's never been equal at any point in time. So
gotcha. Excellent. So Jay, I really want to thank you for joining us today. I think this is an important product that everyone can get a hold of. One, because it's very straightforward. It's very easy to understand. And two, I think clients will definitely resonate if you highlight the important parts of it. The return of premium, the 1% minimum return, the funds that have been around a while, things like that where clients can understand, I think can go a long way for getting them from point A to point B.